We are now live on YouTube.
We are live on the website.
We are now live on YouTube.
All righty. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, everyone. I want to start off by thanking all of the council members, community board chairpersons, and Borough Hall staff who are on this Zoom call today. I also want to thank everyone who was present at our State of the Borough this past Friday. And of course, if you weren't, you could watch it virtually, queensbp.org. And this evening, we are pleased to be joined again by the Bayside Smoke-Free Housing Alliance and New York City Smoke-Free at Public Health Solutions. Last month at our borough board, the board received a small presentation that detailed a resolution that calls for landlords of existing and new apartment residential units to transition to a smoke-free apartment policy. The board then agreed to not vote on the proposed resolution until the language is changed to include secondhand smoke from the use of cannabis and secondhand vapor smoke. The revised resolution was sent out to everyone last week and again this morning. And let me just repeat, just because folks are not millionaires does not, I don't believe they shouldn't have access to smoke-free housing. This is an amenity that is all over the city, and Queens should certainly be ahead of the curve and not behind the curve on this issue. We're already building a lot of smoke-free housing in Queens as well, but we want to make sure that we send one clear message that we want clean air in Queens. We are joined today by Phil, who is the founder of the Bayside Smoke-Free Housing Alliance. Phil is accompanied by Eileen Miller and Lawrence Saunders. Phil, Eileen, and Lawrence will give a brief summary and overview of the resolution, and then they will answer any questions that the board may have. And after the Q&A session, I will then make a motion for the resolution to be accepted. If accepted, and we will then hold a vote on the resolution. So I do want to welcome Phil, Eileen, and Lawrence. And I also just want to point out, when I was a city council member who had a bill on this, especially related to subsidized housing, people looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, I couldn't get people to sign on. And then what happened subsequently after, the federal government came out and issued a rule on public housing. Now, of course, we can all question, what does enforcement look like, But today is a resolution. It's non-binding, just like many of the community boards votes. But I think we should send a very clear message that everyone in Queens, especially those coming through this pandemic where we saw many health issues exacerbated during this period. Many of the folks who died of COVID also living in conditions in places like Far Rockaway to East Elmhurst, in housing conditions they certainly shouldn't have to live in. So this is really an opportunity for us to get it right for the borough. This is not about Donovan Richards. This is not about Phil, Eileen, and others. This is not about taking your First Amendment rights. If you're a homeowner, you want to smoke in your house, do what you need to do. But when you're living in a building, and as someone who lived in affordable housing, I lived in Auburn View, which is formerly known as Ocean Village, where I had to take in that smoke. So when you live in a place and have to experience this, it will hit different for you. So this is not being done because we have nothing better to do, but this is because our seniors, our children, think about babies who have to endure smelling smoke next door in their apartments because they live in a multi-dwelling. They don't have an opportunity to live in a single family home. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there as well. So I want to welcome Phil, Eileen, and Lawrence. We'll open it up for questions now. But once again, people who have a lot of money live in smoke-free buildings, and people who don't have money should not be immune to having the same similar amenity because they're poorer or because they're middle class. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there. All righty, with that being said, we'll open it up for questions, and then we'll motion to accept the resolution. Any questions? All right, I guess okay, I'm gonna go to Vicky, Councilmember Vicky Palladino. I had the privilege of being out in College Point with this morning in the heat, making sure infrastructure is getting built.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Always happy to work with you.
Thank you, Borough President. I just want to make sure I understand. So you're in favor of smoke-free housing in pre-existing buildings?
Pre-existing and new construction.
Okay, so I have to disagree with you.
Okay.
I feel as though, if somebody chooses to smoke, that's their adult right to do so. We can walk down the street and smell pot everywhere we go, and that's okay. I don't like that, but that's happening. I know people who smoke and they not chain smokers. It's just a matter of the right to do what you want in your own four walls that you paid for. I don't think anybody has the right to tell an adult whether or not they could smoke inside their house. I mean, whether it's an
This is
apartment.
not house, this is multi.
I know. Well, I consider if you bought your co-op or condo, or if you are renting, I feel as though it goes against that person's individual right to smoke. I don't think the smoke is seeping through walls and is going to kill our children and all of that. I mean, smoking has been banned everywhere, whether you're in a stadium watching a game, or whether you're in a park, fresh air all around you. I know I'm always considerate of those around me. If anybody's with me that's smoking, I always think of the others sitting nearby if the smoke could offend them, and that's different. But I do believe that if I'm within my four walls, that I indeed have a right to smoke if I want to smoke. So now new construction, people are going in there and they're not being blindsided. They know the rules. That's the rule that's been set up by either the board of the co-op or whatever it is, the building, or by the renters. They come to the conclusion that they don't want that. That's then a choice of a person to either live there or not. But for people who have been living in the same place for 20 years in an apartment or a condo or a co-op, I think it's their right to say, I'm going to smoke, and you've got no business telling me I can't. And that's how I feel about it.
Thank you, council member. And I guess this is just one of those areas we won't disagree on. We do agree on a lot. Even if you live in an existing building, smoke, especially in buildings with poor ventilation, certainly does impact your neighbor. And once again, I've lived that experience.
Open
in Paris,
the window.
yeah, in Paris, for instance, one of the things they've done, I traveled to Paris, they have designated smoking areas. You go to Paris or you go to the airport, they have designated smoking areas. And that's what a lot of new construction is doing. I do understand that this is certainly somewhat of a new phenomenon for some of us. But I will say in more affluent neighborhoods across the city, they're able to look at this as an amenity, and it's sold as an amenity because, many folks who have access to more resources understand the importance of, especially living in multi-dwellings, of having clean air and having dwellings that are smoke-free.
Well,
I know you support the new construction,
but I know a lot of people who live in like in Bayside, in Bay Bridge and all of that. I know that Bay Club, these are big buildings. And I know a lot of people who do smoke, they go out on their terrace to smoke. People are wise. They're smart. You have a few that don't give a damn, but for the most part, people do and are conscious of what's around them and who's around them. And a lot of people don't even like the smell of the house in there. No one's allowed to smoke in my house. If you want to smoke, you go outside. And if it's raining, I'm just sorry, stand under the awning. But I just feel that if you live in an apartment and it's your home, I just feel that's that slippery slope that we're on again about telling people what they can and cannot do. And I think we're heading, if we allow this to go through, I just think it's wrong.
Yeah, no problem.
It's wrong.
All right, thank you for
welcome.
your comments. And the federal government, once again, has said the same thing that I'm saying. So I'm not,
Okay.
I don't think I'm too crazy. All right, we're gonna
Can
move
I go
on.
next? I have my hand up.
Right. We're gonna move on to now Martha Taylor.
Yes, okay, thank you very much, Borough President. I do not believe that this body of chairs of community boards has any business telling apartment buildings what to do. If they want to make rules and regulations for their residents, that's fine, but we have no business telling them what to do. And that last paragraph there doesn't sound to me like it's strongly encouraging anybody to do anything. Instead, it's asking the city council to adopt legislation. So that's contradictory to everything that goes before on this resolution. So I'm sorry, but I have to agree with Councilmember Palladino. It's wrong and we can't do it.
All right.
Or maybe I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I'm not a bit sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to Community Board 12. Reverend Princess Dobbs.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Borough President Richards. I was reading the resolution and I found the second to last paragraph to be weak when it came to the regulations or the rules about the marijuana use. That was extremely loose. And when I have a smoker in my house, and yes, they do go outside to smoke. And again, like the ladies have already expressed, where you say no smoking for people who've lived in NYCHA for years and generations, where are they going? You're telling them they can't smoke in their house. What senior is going outside in an elevator downstairs to go out to smoke if they don't have a balcony or something of that nature? So there's got to be some sort of, if we're going to push something like this, we need to have some sort of balance. What do we do? What are we going to be doing for them on the back end of this? And the marijuana smoking, that's not strong enough. We're coming down from tobacco, but we're not doing the same with the marijuana.
So what I would say, once again, this is not something foreign. You know, there are many places around the country and world who have designated smoking areas. And if you're in NYCHA, first of all, we all know that many NYCHA residents lost their lives during COVID-19 disproportionately because of health disparities. So yes, you have the freedoms to smoke what you want to smoke, but we know that these health disparities largely exist because of the conditions, one, of housing in NYCHA, but also because of the lack of smoke-free housing as well, which makes NYCHA residents more susceptible to these issues than most residents. So this is not to tell people they can't smoke, but yes, if you live in a multi-dwelling, and once again, this is, if you have money, you live in a smoke-free housing building, and they figured out ways to make it smoke-free. So if you're in places like Long Island City, where large towers exist, some of those buildings have smoke-free policies. So this is not being drafted out as some thin air. The point is that this disproportionately impacts more Black and brown New Yorkers than anyone else. So I just wanted to make sure that I also made this clear. This is not to tell people they can't, but we should be looking at alternatives. This is not the only place in the world where this specific policy would exist. There are places in New York City where these policies absolutely do exist. And I'm going to allow more to smoke-free folks to chime in after me. But I just wanted to put this on the record that this is not something being done out of thin air. Like, there are places, including even in the Rockaways, where many of the new developments coming up are going smoke-free. So this is not, and this is an amenity, right? All New Yorkers should have access to. All right, I'm going to go to Dolores Orr.
Good evening, everyone. I live in a multi-family building, and I realize folks that live in private homes do not understand the impact. I have a new neighbor. I've lived here for 30 years, and I have a new neighbor, and now I've had to purchase 2 air filters because of both tobacco and cannabis. And I could not sit at my dining room table, sit in my living room, or cook food in my kitchen without those air filters right now. And that's part of the design of the building. It's a very old building. And it's not, if you look at the second to last paragraph, it's the Borough Board is recommending and encouraging owners and landlords to put this into practice. So if it's a co-op building, which I live in, that would come before the board of directors, and I would think they would probably pass it on to the shareholders as a whole to vote on that. And in terms of a landlord, I don't know. The landlord has that decision. It's his property. It affects also the apartment. If he's turning over an apartment, if it's where there's been a smoker, it costs him more money to restore and make that apartment sellable because of not just the smell of the smoke, but you can see the yellow on some of the walls. So it does affect, and if you do not live in or have not lived in a multifamily building, you don't understand that. So I certainly support the Queensborough Board encouraging owners and landlords to look at the benefit they would have and invoking a smoke-free environment. And I think more people look to now buy or rent in a smoke-free building than in one that doesn't have a policy in place. Thank you.
Thank you. I think my internet got stuck, so sorry if I came off. All right, well now, thank you so much, Dolores, for that, because this is what this is about. We're now going to go to Maury.
Excuse me, Mr. Borough President, point of order, please. This is Gene Kelty. Point of order,
I
please.
didn't call on you. I said Maury.
I know, but I have a point of order. It takes precedent, please. If I may. Is it okay, please? Mr. Borough President, this is Gene Kelty. Just a point of order. All I'm asking you is everybody is giving us a discussion on the motion. You asked for questions and nobody's asking questions. They're giving their opinion. I have no problem waiting to give my opinion and stuff, but I had a question and I thought that's how we were going forward. Everybody used to ask a question, and then when a motion is made, it's the discussion on the motion is how we move forward. We're not doing that. Everybody's giving us their opinion right now. And that's why I asked for the point of order.
Hey, Gene, this is Alan Swisher. I think that the borough president is having some technical issues right now. I take your point, actually, and I unfortunately, I don't have the authority to request for a motion right now, but if any member of the board would like to make a motion to accept this resolution, that would be within their rights, unless there are any more questions.
There are questions, Alan. That's why I was waiting, but everybody seems to be giving their opinion. That's why I would like to get the questions first, and then we could do the motion.
Okay, understood. So let's, at least at this point, before the motion is made, let's focus on questions. Gene, did you have a question?
I didn't want to stop out of line after the other person, the borough president asked for. I don't mind waiting. I have no problem.
All right, thank you. BP, are you back on?
I'm back.
Okay,
I'm back.
great.
We'll go to Maury and then to Gene if he had a question. Sorry.
Yeah. So just following up on, I was going to make commentary, but to Gene's point, I will ask a question since we're just supposed to be asking questions right now. I just want to clarify the last part, the last paragraph, where we're encouraging the city council to study this, not to make a decision yet, right? Just to research it and study it and consider adopting similar legislation.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that it's about studying it, not just jumping in, right? Okay.
Okay, we'll go to you now, Mr. Jean.
Thank you, Mr. BP. The last two meetings we had, I had a question on, and that's what I have a problem with, is I said that I don't see anything in here for the smokers. Remember, I think you and I talked at the last thing, you mentioned again Paris, and I was just in Paris, and they have rooms to the side that people could smoke in. When this thing was reworked, who reworked this borough resolution, and it did not include my request in that we should have a room designated in the buildings, or should be designated in the building for those people that do want to smoke, so that it does not affect the people. I just want to know where that got taken out of. That's all.
I don't know if Alan, you want to go into that, because I wasn't at the last one.
Sure. I would reiterate some of the points that have already been made here, in that, we are looking for the property owners, et cetera, to make decisions to prevent the spread of secondhand smoke. So having a designated area would be at the discretion of the property owner. I think that the spirit of this resolution, however, is focusing on the health effects of secondhand smoking. And I think that most likely making a recommendation to have a recommendation in this resolution to have a specific area designated for smokers wouldn't be within the spirit of what is trying to be accomplished here. However, I take your point. I think that obviously would be within the discretion of the property owner of a multifamily dwelling. So that I think that's the purpose of the updated resolution.
But Alvin, it's not even mentioned in here, so anybody that sees it would not even think that the equalness of the person that wants to smoke is not even addressed in here. At least if there was something to say with it that says if people would like to smoke, then they should be able to contact somebody in the building. But having a document that doesn't even address it does not make it equal. And I'll talk about under that question under discussion on the motion. Thank you.
And you're more than welcome to, at the time of resolution, if you want to recommend an amendment to it, I would certainly be open to that.
Thank you, Mr. BP. Thank you.
BP, I think Chairman Orkiri might be next.
You're next, Mr. Benson.
Yeah, I don't have a question, I have a statement, so I'll wait till later. Or you want me to make it now?
We'll get into questions. So I'm going to allow now the Smoke Free Coalition to answer any of the concerns raised. And then at during the mention of adoption, we'll come back to you for comments or statements. Thank you.
Hi, I'd just like to just answer a few of the questions. When you have a co-op or a condo, it's really shared airspace. There've been multiple studies on it, and it is significant that the air travels from one apartment to the other. And if someone's smoking, it does go through from one apartment to the other, through the outlets, through ventilation systems, through various different ways. So when you buy a co-op or a condo, you know that you have a shared airspace, as well as if there's someone that's playing loud music, that's shared space. You can't do that. That's not acceptable. And this is what we're trying to show is not acceptable to smoke, because when you smoke, you're affecting people in other apartments. If you have a small infant in one of those apartments, that smoke can go in there and wreak havoc on that baby's lungs. There are multiple studies on the effects of secondhand smoke, so many health issues with it. And that's what our basic goal is, not to prevent you from doing what you want to do, but to stop people from getting sick from someone else's smoke. The other thing I wanted to mention, that North Shore Towers, they are over 1,500 co-op apartments. They voted on a resolution and they are totally smoke-free for every single one of those apartments. And they have been in progress. They have these apartments for years and years and years. And this is something they have. Going on to other apartments, some of the buildings have grandfathered the smoke-free resolutions in. So in other words, if someone has been living there 40 years, they have grandfathered it in that they might not be affected, but when their lease is up, when they leave, then they would be able, that apartment would be regulated like the rest. And it's the co-op who really makes the decision. The board and the co-op has gotten together and decided, yes, this is what they want. They want significant health ramifications out of their immediate area of breathing. Those were the two things that I just wanted to bring to your attention. I understand it's all right, but at the same time, if you have a baby or a child, or actually if you ever went to an emergency room and saw someone in such distress from secondhand smoke, you know, we got to take care of one another at some point. And it really is a significant health issue. Is there anyone else wants to?
Yes. Hi, Lawrence Saunders, NYC Smoke Free. Just to piggyback on what Eileen just said, secondhand smoke it does affect people. I mean, unfortunately, I know we say we can do what we want to do in our apartments or in our houses, in our apartments, and but you know, you can do what you want to do. You're paying the rent, you're paying whatever for the lease and the mortgage, but you know, you still have to be considerate of others. You can't blast music 3 o'clock in the morning and be like, okay, you can't do that. It's not right. And that's just like, if I do that, I'm not being courteous. I can keep people up. But secondhand smoke, here's one of the things that we find out. Secondhand smoke, there's no ventilation system that you can get in any building that will prevent secondhand smoke from traveling. None. You can buy all kind of ventilation. That's why when you say to get a separate room in a building, it's not going to work, because the secondhand smoke, the toxic chemicals, they're going to travel. It's going to get into the building. It's going to affect. That's why when landlords, like one of the things, like when we're working with these buildings to go smoke free, landlords are appreciative of the matter, because it's like, hey, we're saving them tens of thousands of dollars from turnover, because the turnover apartments that have been infected by smoke, secondhand smoke, there's something that's called third-hand smoke that gets embedded in paint and gets embedded in carpet and floors and things like that. That's also dangerous. So there's no ventilation system that's safe. You can't keep it out. You know, like you said, people have a right to do what they want to do, but no one is you're not gonna sit there and say, well, I pay rent here, so I can blast music anytime I want. But secondhand smoke actually kills. Thousands of people die a year as a result of secondhand smoke, and in New York City as well. So it's just really something that, you know, as the VP said, you know, shouldn't be something just for rich people. You know, this is something that everyone should have a right to do. And as far as NYCHA has adopted, you know, a HUD mandated policy. But even NYCHA, there's no designated rooms to smoke in the NYCHA complex, because they know that it defeats the purpose, because the smoke is going to travel. It's still going to get the toxic chemicals are going to go somewhere else. So it's going to affect someone, it's going to affect others. So we're here today just to support this, to say that, you know, we want people to breathe. We want people to be safe. COVID has taken a toll on our society, on everyone. It has not discriminated. And those who have respiratory issues, because it is a respiratory, you know, virus that really attacks that. If it's compromised in any way, secondhand smoke will compromise that. And then if someone gets COVID, which we're not out of a pandemic yet, it's going to make it even that much more worse. So again, yeah, people have a right to do what they want to do. It affects them, but what about when it affects someone else? It's not, you don't have a right to do what you want to do when it affects someone else. So that's what we're here to,
you made some,
you know,
some really valid points, because although FDNY has not even come on record in supporting something like this, landlords love this for a few reasons. One, it reduces the opportunity in a big way for there to be fires in their building.
Yes.
So from a safety aspect, I know from speaking to FDNY when I drafted the original resolution in the council, although they didn't testify, because most people thought I was crazy when I put this up before HUD actually adopted that particular rule. I felt vindicated actually after HUD that's the rule. I was like, whoa, I was like ahead of the curve. Like, I'm not crazy. And I used to chair environmental protection. So that's sort of what led me into studying this a little bit. But from a safety aspect too, we're putting frontline workers, especially our first responders, at risk. They have to go into these buildings when a cigarette is dropped in between the couch as well. Let's not forget some of the things we've seen around the city when it comes to cigarettes. And I'm not trying to fearmonger and say cigarettes are causing fires every day. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there. But also for landlords, and I think Chair Orr hit it right. She hit it right on the head. Because oftentimes when an apartment is turned over, what we would hear from landlords is they have to go in and break up the walls because the smoke seeps into the walls astronomically. So it gives them costs, and those costs can be redistributed into making repairs in the buildings, perhaps. Not saying that they do it. I'm not here to lobby for the landlord lobby, but there are challenges around having that smoke also seep into the walls, not just into the couch, not just into the bedroom. But this is really about ensuring that we can also save some money, perhaps that could go back in years as well. So you made some really points. Yes.
Just to interject, and that's called third-hand smoke. Like when it infiltrates wood, that can also cause harmful effects on the health of human beings. It's third-hand. Those chemicals, because remember, it's not just smoke that's disappeared. These are toxic chemicals. 7,000 carcinogens, different chemicals are embedded in these places. So, and also, just to piggyback, the second leading cause of fires, fatal fires in New York City, is from secondhand smoke. Behind electrical fires is smoking fires, people who smoke. So we have to be cognizant of that. We want to protect our people. We want to protect our first responders. And this is a way, again, we know secondhand smoking is like the leading cause of death, preventable death in America, So, but when we look at this, these fires and things like that, fatal fires, these are things that's within our power to eradicate if we adopt a policy like this. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the staff to call on because I had to change over. My laptop was backing up. So staff, you can please call on whoever's here for comments or questions. Thank you.
Could I jump in here?
Phil, yes, and then I think we have the hands raised of a few board members, so I'll move to them next. So Phil.
All right, thank you. First, I'd like to thank you yourself, Alan, for helping us with the revision of the original resolution that we presented, and also for Chair Orr for pointing out to our initial issues that this, I hope, would be sufficient for the board to move forward and pass it. I just want to remind those that were not, when we first started our organizations, our smoke-free organizations, we first visited some boards several times to present a individual smoke-free multiple house resolution. And we've got 13 of the 14 boards had passed it at that time. Prior to that, the Brooklyn Borough Board, the similar one that we're talking here, they passed a Borough Board smoke-free housing resolution back in 2016. The point that I think we're getting away from is, as a resolution, we're coming forward and advising landlords, co-ops, condos, rentals, that this is something that they should consider. The borough itself, all the leaders of the board are recommending that. They don't have to go by that. But a lot of landlords, they are looking for help because they're running into issues in their buildings that they don't know what they should do. Should they go smoke-free? Should they not? by the borough board issuing this resolution, we're giving them the support that they need to act in their best interest as well as the residents' best interest. Again, we're only talking suggestions, resolutions. We're not talking about a law at this point. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Phil. Councilmember Palladino, did you have another question?
I do, I'm sorry, yes, Eileen, I do agree with
Yes.
what you said to the point of, they voted. You see, here's the word, voted, which is key. That gives people the opportunity, to express their opinion in the way it should be done. And as voting goes, you know, the majority does win. So, to you, I say that. My question is this: how does everybody feel about the legalization of cannabis? I call it pot. You know, we're talking, wait, I'm not just addressing you, Eileen, everybody. This is really where we are, you know, cigarette smokers have been villainized now for the better side of close to 20 years. And I do understand the effects of secondhand smoke. I have two people very close to me, my brother and my sister, who I lost both of them to lung cancer within 2 years of each other.
There you go.
So this is not coming from somebody who does not know what it looks like to watch somebody dwindle down and die. It's absolutely disgusting. But I do say this: I have a genuine problem with anybody who sits on this board or in this audience this evening that thinks smoking pot is okay. Because if we are going to outlaw cigarette smoking, or I'm using the word law, and I apologize for that because we didn't vote it into law. This is something that the individuals in these buildings will vote upon. I have a problem with people who think that smoking pot is okay. I don't.
No.
I absolutely do not. I think the smell is disgusting.
Only because I have the NYPD on, and this is not about cannabis versus cigarette smoking. This is
But
smoking.
it is, it is, because what we're saying is we're talking about smoke in general, right? And the
Cannabis-
chemicals.
Hold on, but cannabis is used, and somebody who's done a lot of work around cannabis in the city council, 86% of all arrests and summonses for cannabis were given to Black and brown New Yorkers. So this is more of a justice issue when you raise cannabis, because we know whites smoke just on average the same amount as pot as Black and brown New Yorkers. However,
Oh, yeah.
hold on. So it's not about okaying marijuana, but it's about taking away the stigma and ensuring that because you're Black and brown and smoke because you're Black and brown and smoke New York, you smoke pot, you shouldn't end up in jail. And just because you're white and smoke it doesn't mean you should still be able to go to Yale. So we are correct.
No, but not even, no, no.
But
No.
because you're taking it into a different space, and cannabis has been used as a tool to criminalize, for instance, communities in Rosedale and Laurelton and Rosedale who led the city in summonses and arrests when it came to marijuana in a Black middle class, Black and brown.
I'm talking about smoking it in the
So
house.
it's not that people are promoting cannabis, but it's about ensuring that we can decriminalize it so that just as on average, whites, Asians, Blacks, everybody smokes marijuana on average when you look at the statistics. However, one of the reasons the changes are being made is to ensure that we're not keeping people, locking them out of housing opportunities, locking them because your college education, for instance, you're not eligible for financial assistance if you have an arrest record for marijuana on your record. So it's not about legalizing it or saying we love it, but it's just about ensuring that, well, it is about legalizing it to make sure that certain communities aren't stigmatized, but it doesn't mean that anybody on this line who's spoken up on that issue is out here holding ads on, go out there, smoke cannabis, so it's all
No,
right.
I'm talking about, this is all about living in the house. I'm talking about, if we're going to say that we can't smoke cigarettes in the house, in your
Right.
own house, I'm talking about, well, what about Canada? I mean, what about?
Well, that-
Can I say-
Respectfully,
it's in
council
the
member.
resolution. It's
That's
in
That's in the
the
resolution, council member.
It's in it, right? It's in the
Yes.
resolution.
It's cannabis or vaping or
Oh,
tobacco.
vaping also?
Those three
Yes.
words.
Yes.
It's all
Okay.
in the resolution.
All right, so
It's
long as
all right.
it's everything.
Mr. Borough President, may I speak, please? It's Christine Hayter.
Yes.
May I? Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I had my hand up forever here. I firmly believe in this resolution. I know Eileen and Phil and worked very, very hard on this. And we passed it in our board 11, and it's been passed in many boards. Now, I take offense, I'm sorry, to some of the discussion that has been just said. We're talking about white people don't get arrested as often as black. This is not the issue.
Right, exactly, not the issue.
I find that offensive.
Right,
I really find that offensive.
right.
I've been on the board for 30 years and I have worked with everybody.
Right.
Now, if we have a good policy like this, I want to know how we're going to enforce it. I think it's wonderful. And also, people say if the white people have houses, they don't get secondhand smoke. Let me tell you something. Your teenage boy, Johnny, goes down the basement and takes a few tokes downstairs, right? Do you know that that comes right up through your pipes and everything else? It does. So that statement was totally erroneous. So I am voting for this on behalf of Community Board 11. And I hope we can move out of this rut we're in and get
Right.
forward with the business at hand.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. And let me just clarify once again, what was very offensive is 86 to 90% of all arrests happening to Black and brown New Yorkers. And there's no way to shy around that. So if I'm
Right.
being unlike other people, I'm sorry if that is offensive. It's just the facts are the facts. And we can't dispel the numbers. You know, the numbers are the numbers. As someone who chaired the Public Safety Committee, I certainly can attest to those numbers being factual. So I don't want to make this Black versus white because everybody, their socioeconomic statuses, no matter what your race is, no matter what your religion, no matter who you love, everybody deserves to be able to breathe clean air. So that's
Of course.
about, but I also have to point out, once the conversation moves to cannabis, that one of the reasons people fought for the legalization was to make sure that those disparities in the arrest and summonses that still exist today, by the way, could be dealt with. So this is not black or white, but unfortunately the justice system made it black and white because they arrested more kids in Southeast Queens than any part of New York City in a Black middle-class neighborhood that I will not shy away from saying that I live in and represent. And it's not like when you walk down the block, you're just smelling marijuana in this neighborhood, right? So I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because I would be doing an injustice to my community by not speaking to what I see and what I know are the numbers when it comes to summonses. And the rest in the NYPD, to their credit, have done a better job at addressing that disparity, but it still exists. So I just didn't want this to turn into cannabis versus cigarettes. We're saying we're all rowing in the same direction, whether it's cannabis, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's vaping.
No,
You should have access to clean air no matter where you're at.
absolutely. Freedom.
All righty. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? All right, Al, and with that being said, let's.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Borough President. I do see that Chair Bratton from CB10 does have her hand up.
I'll yield to the Borough President.
Okay.
My comment really was that we have now spent 3 meetings of the Borough Board on this issue. I haven't heard one new thing tonight.
Right.
And we didn't see in the resolution itself that we can read. And my question really is, with every other serious issue, and this is one of many serious issues, that we face. Are we going to spend 3 meetings of this borough board debating a resolution that carries no force of law? You know, our next participant tonight is a police official. We have serious issues there to need to discuss. Can we move the motion and not spend another meeting or another minute debating this?
I think.
That's what we're doing tonight.
I
we can
agree
with
also.
that. Thank you. So I will.
Motion.
So Betty, you've made the motion?
Could you restate it?
Restate the motion.
Yes.
And
so do I have a
want to
motion?
vote on it? Move the motion according to procedure.
Is
and
there?
Let's move on to another topic.
Is there a motion?
Got a lot of issues.
Yes, I think we can all agree with that, Betty. Is there a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
What is the resolution?
The resolution I
This
can put on the
is
screen.
Laura and I make a motion to accept the resolution.
Let's hear the resolution.
I'll second it, Dolores.
Let's hear it first.
Thank you. We
Go ahead.
received it all in emails multiple times.
I don't think that there's a necessity to read the motion.
I think
out.
it is, because the official record of the city of New York is the verbal.
That's not necessarily the case, Benny. And in this case, we can have as an addendum the written resolution and make reference to it. This meeting is being recorded also, so there's a written resolution. So I've heard a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is Gene Kelty. I have my hand up, Alvin.
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a secondary motion to this.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to see a section in that bottom half where it talked about all the restrictions that the secondhand smoke or wherever it belongs, that they should also look to help the people that are having problems with smoking in a designated room acceptable to both the occupants and the landlord or the owner of the buildings, properly vented to the exterior so to not allow any additional smoke into the building or exterior building should be included as a recommendation in this.
I second Gene's amendment.
Good.
Any building that is going to impose a smoke-free regulation also needs to address the uses within their building to accommodate smokers, unless it is new construction where that is part of the original documentation for the building.
So I'm going to defer to the borough president and get the input from the smoke-free housing folks.
I find that amendment offensive.
And how do you keep the bus smoke and truck smoke out of your windows?
Let's just keep it on what we're here to talk about. We don't
not
keep it on what we're talking about today.
Right.
All right. All right. Why don't we just call the motion? I'm good at calling the motion as is.
But you gotta.
Excuse me, there's a secondary motion, Mr. Borough President.
Yeah, so there's borough president, would you accept this as a friendly motion to amend?
Sure.
Right.
Okay, so let's land on some precise language.
Has to accept it.
The amendment has to be seconded though, right?
The amendment was seconded.
I seconded it.
I second it.
And I would offer a second friendly amendment. Address the issue raised by the borough president in regard to NYCHA. There should be a section in here that mandates the city of New York as the property owner does not require this motion or anything else to put that in its regulations to start with. That any building that is receiving public funding should already have this as part of their regulations to start with.
We're never going to get off of this.
That's not NYCHA's policy because it's HUD. It's a federal regulated policy. That's not included. They're not going to include that. It's federal. It's a federal policy. HUD. NYCHA's on the HUD. They're not going to include that. They haven't included that because their purpose is to keep secondhand smoke away from residents and affecting other people. So they're not going to include that. That's a federal mandate.
So call the motion. This is Dolores Orr for Robert's Rules. Please call the motion.
I'm sorry, this is Gene Kelty again. I heard the Borough President accept my friendly motion. Was that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. BP. Appreciate that. Thank you.
No.
I will withdraw mine.
Okay.
And he withdrew hers.
Now the question is the precise language of this. So I am going to propose some language here. Jean, since you made the friendly, excuse me?
I'm sorry, this is Dolores Orr, and I really have to drop off this meeting. I do want to record my vote with the amendment in however the language is resolved, that I vote yes for the motion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Jean, did you have a specific language that we should include here?
I have no problem. I'll leave it up to the legal people to do it. I just want something fair for the people that have a very difficult time to break the habit of smoking.
I think that it's, in light of the fact that the Borough President agrees with the sentiment, what I'm going to propose in the interest of time is that I will communicate with you subsequently and do a consensus about the language that would reflect your sentiment.
That's fine. That's fine. That's good.
Point of information.
Yes.
I just want to clarify. So if this whole document is meant to be a document that empowers landlords to to have a no smoking building, then I think that Jean's friendly amendment should also be a recommendation, but not mandatory, so that the landlord can choose if they want to.
I believe that is Jean's sentiment. This is a recommendation, a statement of the Borough Board's interest in landlords and property owners of multifamily dwellings to look into this and take a more aggressive stand with respect to secondhand smoke. But I think we agree in principle here, Maury. Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay, let's take the vote. Khalil, do you want to read out we have to take a roll call vote on this?
Want to do a roll call, or do you want to do like?
We have to do a roll call for all votes.
Okay, so CB1?
Yes.
CB2? Maury?
Oh, sorry, yes.
I think Frank Taylor's not on the call, right, from CB3? Okay, no call. CB4?
CB4?
Did see them on the call.
Maria Elena Giampino?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was having a hard time unmuting. I'm gonna have to abstain because it's not something that my board reviewed or voted on.
I'll note that an abstention for something that isn't a conflict of interest is counted as a no.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
An abstention when not taken for a conflict of interest is counted as a no vote.
A no vote? Okay, so I'll have to say no then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me if I'm out of order, please, I apologize. But CB4 is on record of passing a smoke-free housing resolution in the past. Would that not carry through as far as?
This is not the motion that we're voting on. That motion.
Do you know the year by any chance?
Respectfully, let's just continue with the vote. Phil, your point is made. Thank you. Let's go with CB5.
As previously, for reasons previously stated, I'm opposed.
Thank you, Vinny. CB6.
No.
CB7.
Yes, with the addition of my motion.
Thank you, Gene. CB8. Ms. Taylor?
Martha Taylor?
Okay, let's move on. CB9?
Yes.
CB10?
Betty?
Mute. Sorry, I didn't unmute. No.
CB 11,
Yes.
CB 12,
With the friendly amendment, yes.
CB 13,
With Gene's friendly amendment, yes. I have concerns of us going down the slippery slope, but I'm saying yes.
thank you. And CB 14?
Yes, already.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
that's correct. And Councilmember Palladino, you also have a vote. You're still unmuted.
Yeah, there you go. I vote like Jean with the friendly amendment. I'll go for it so long as there's the friendly amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can we just circle back? Martha Taylor, are you still on the call, Martha? Or if you have to unmute yourself?
Okay, my vote was no.
Okay.
Well, I'm counting 9 votes in favor, in which case the motion passes.
I have the same.
Okay.
May I just say thank you, everyone, because we're just trying to make a cleaner, healthier lifestyle for all of our children and our grandchildren. And I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. We got to
Oh, Donovan Richards, thank you. I'm so
Hey,
sorry.
thank
Thank you.
you.
God bless you.
move on. I got to move on. Thank you. All right. For our next agenda item, we are pleased to be joined by Deputy Chief Kevin A. Williams, who is the new commanding officer for Patrol Borough Queens South, and I've known him for a while. So welcome. Deputy Chief Williams is an experienced community-oriented law enforcement executive with 26 years of service in the New York City Police Department in diverse and progressively challenging assignments. Tonight, Deputy Chief Williams will introduce himself to the board and discuss the overall safety plans for Patrol Borough Queens South. And we will, of course, do North next time as well. We do a borough board meeting, but I also want to thank everybody for making this possible today. I want to welcome now Patrol Borough South of Queens, Deputy Chief Williams, to now address us. And I also want to thank Queens South for the work that they're doing. I do keep up with numbers tremendously, monitoring where we're at in both North and South. We have seen a decline in murders, certainly, and I believe we're down at least a few shootings in Queens South. So I want to thank them for the work that they're doing, our men and women of the NYPD for what they're doing. And I will now turn it over to Chief Williams.
Mr. Borough President, thank you very much. My name is Kevin Williams. Like the Borough President said, I am the commanding officer here in Patrol Borough Queens South. Happy to be here. A lifelong resident of Queens. So it's an honor and a privilege to be in this position. Just real quick before we go on, I just want to give a brief overview of where we stand here. On the 7th day of my tenure, I just want to put that out there, my 7th day of the tenure here. But when we look at overall in Queens South, like the Borough President said, we are showing a decrease in murders for year to date in the 28-day period, and also in shooting incidents, 28-day and year to date. When it comes to other crimes, you know, it continues to be a struggle. We're seeing an increase in rapes, robberies, felony assaults, burglaries, grand larcenies, and GLO.
All right, have a good night.
Excuse me?
Are you good?
Yeah, Khalil, just mute yourself.
Okay, sorry about that. So obviously there is some work that we have to do here in Patrol Borough Queens South. If I were to take one thing away from some of those numbers, because sometimes, you know, when we look at numbers, we can look at it differently. So we have basically a 37% increase in overall crime year to date in Queens South. But when we look at that increase, 73% of that increase comes from 2 categories: our grand larcenies and our grand larcenies of an automobile. So for grand larcenies, and both of these are basically property crimes. So when we look at our grand larcenies, we do have a portion which are identity theft. So long story short, you get a call from your credit card company about some purchases, you didn't do it, that's identity theft and things of that nature. Well, a lot of what we're seeing are larcenies from a vehicle. whether it's somebody breaking into somebody's car, stealing property over $1,000, or we see larcenies from a vehicle when we're dealing with somebody removing the catalytic converter. So those are the things that we're trying to address when it comes to grand larcenies, and also the grand larceny of an auto. It's a phenomenon, and I guess technology sometimes helps us and hurts us. We are seeing a lot of vehicles with people leaving the vehicles running. I don't know if it's because now a lot of vehicles, you just keep the key fob in your pocket. You may forget, or you think you could run into the store. So we're seeing a lot of that around here in Patrol Borough, Queens South. So we're going to work on those issues to try to reverse that trend as we move forward. Again, we talk about crime and quality of life here in Queens, as being a lifelong Queens resident. I know those are critical issues. So the question is, what are we doing about it to address all these concerns? And I like to say that, we have an overlay of several different things on how we're doing it here in Patrol Borough, Queens South. We have the patrol, our regular patrol, the 8 precincts that make up Patrol Borough, Queens South. And we're going to talk about some deployment over there. And we're also going to talk about how we work with our people in the transit and housing bureaus to take care of those issues. And then we're going to talk about another overlay we have in regards with our counterterrorism deployment to have an increased presence to deal with some of the things that we see going on throughout our nation, but also specifically here in New York City. So when we talk about deployment and we talk about our summer plans for deployment, you're going to find me to be a very straight talking person. Obviously, our mayor and our police commissioner laser focus on reducing gun violence. And as you see, those results are there. Like the borough president said, we're down 5 shootings for year to date. But we're also down, when we look at the 28-day period, we're down 12. Now, some people may say those are small numbers, but that's one less person that was shot or one less shooting incident. I think everyone that we do to help reduce it is a great thing. So how are we doing that here in Patrol Borough, Queens South? So it's a team-led approach. I'm led by myself as the borough commander. But some of the things we're doing it a little differently. We do deployments. We put people actually out on patrol on foot. One example I could give is of the Jamaica Avenue revitalization, task force. All right, on the day tours, which is 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and with also what we call our third platoon, which is 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Each one of those tours, you're going to see 2 sergeants and 16 cops along the Jamaica Avenue corridor. Places where we have historical issues, quality of life issues, crime issues, whether it's Suffolk and Archer, whether it's Parson and Archer, 150 in Jamaica, 165 in Jamaica. So you're going to see those officers deployed there 7 days a week. And it's already, I believe, paying dividends when we look at overall crime in the 103rd precinct. All right, another thing that we're doing, we have what's called supplemental deployment. Through the vision of the police commissioner and the chief of patrol, also the chief of department, there was a push to get a lot of administrative personnel in the police department out on the street. And we do that here in Patrol Borough, Queens South. So every day I get a supplemental 1 sergeant, 8 police officers. And I disperse them throughout the borough, wherever those issues are, whether there's issues in the 102nd precinct, in Richmond Hill, or there's issues in Hollis in the 113, among the 103 precinct. So we're using those supplemental patrols on top of our regular patrols. Also, our neighborhood coordinating officers. Every neighborhood coordinating officer assigned to Patrol Borough, Queens South, and also throughout the city, have been assigned to our basically 3rd platoon. That's 1,500 and beyond, because the numbers do not lie. Most crime occurs during those hours. So we deploy, and my precinct commanders deploy based on their crime conditions in their commands. So we have extra personnel that's out there. And again, even though we're struggling with a lot of property crimes, when it comes to the violence that is seen here in Queens South, I believe it's really, really working. As you can see by the reduction in the number of shooting incidents that we have for the 28th day and also for year to date. Now, also what we're doing in the Rockaways, right? With beach season, the Rockaway Beach detail, that consists of 2 lieutenants, 10 sergeants, and 54 police officers that we spread along the beach in both the 100 and 101st precincts. And not only are they deployed there, they also a supplemental force that my commanders down in the 100 and the 101 precinct can use if there's any other issues in the Rockaways. And that's, again, on top of the deployment that they put out every day. One of my mantras that you will see from me going forward, I am a true believer in high visibility foot patrol. I've seen it work. When I was a precinct commander in Harlem, it worked. When I was a lieutenant and sergeant in Brooklyn, it worked. And I will do everything I can to put more police officers out there. Not only out there just standing there not doing anything, but also being a visible presence, moving around, engaging with everybody, because I believe in the end of the day, that's where we're gonna get a lot of our results in regards to crime reduction. Also, again, I know Queens, a lot of Queens has to do with quality of life issues. So one of the things that we're doing here throughout the borough, we're looking at different conditions, whether it's homeless encampments, whether it's towed vehicles, which overnight parking. I know those are bread and butter issues for people here in Queens, Patrol Borough, Queens South. So far year to date, we've done 9 operations when it comes to heavy tow and overnight parking. We towed about 8 tractor trailers, 4 other commercial vehicles. We booted 37 of them, and we issued over 170 summonses. Obviously, there's more work to be done there. One of the things, again, those quality of life issues. My first call to Brian Bohannon, the commanding officer of the 113th precinct, had nothing to do with crime. It had to do with a quality of life issue with the parking of towed vehicles along Farmers Boulevard from Merrick going all the way down to Montauk. And I'm proud to say that one of the first things that happened during my first tour as a borough commander, Brian Bohannon did the operation where we removed some vehicles. Again, it's just the beginning, but if you are in that area and you go down that way, you see that there's a vast improvement. There's still more work to do, but I think we could continue to address those type of issues. We will go a long way. Also, what also was helping us with our deployment, as I'm sure a lot of people here know, because this seems like to be a very well-informed group, the police commissioner and the chief of department brought back our neighborhood safety teams. So we have 4 here in Patrol Borough, Queens South. 1 in the 101, 1 in the 103, the 105, and the 113, which have been our traditional violent commands. So far year to date, they've been able to pull over 10 guns off the streets here in Patrol Borough, Queens South. So obviously it's still a lot of work to be done, but I think, I could give you numbers upon numbers and to keep going and going, but the work is there. I think the plan that we have in place with the deployment of our personnel, also with housing and transit, every command that has a transit stop, we are partnering with our transit bureau colleagues, and we're doing checks. So whether it's in the Rockaways, whether it's Parsons and Archer, whether it's Parsons and the Hillside, Union Turnpike, you're going to see police officers there topside, which basically is police jargon for those that work in the precinct and those that work in those transit stations. Again, addressing those crime issues, addressing those quality of life issues in our transit system. We also do that with our partners in the Housing Bureau, and South Jamaica Houses, Baisley Houses, in the Rockaways, where we have steady NCOs assigned to those developments in the Rockaways. Again, constant police presence and engagement to address those issues. And lastly, before I turn it over to any questions, as you've seen some of the events that we've had here throughout the country, dealing with active shooter situations, terrorist situations, we have a counterterrorism unit here. We have what we call the counterterrorism training officers, the CTOs. that we put out deployment at high profile areas to keep that presence, so that some of those issues that are affecting outside of the city do not rear its ugly head here in Queens. So those are just some things that what we're doing here in Queens. I'm looking forward to do much more, and I'm just happy and excited to be here. So, Mr. Borough President.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Thank you for being here. And once again, very happy to have you as someone who had a record of working on many of these issues for a long time. So just go to, I know you discussed the Jamaica plan. Can you just go through where we're at? And I was very happy to be with the police commissioner. We know there's been a myriad of issues on Jamaica Avenue. Has that initiative kicked off, or where are we at, and what does it look like at this moment?
Okay, the Jamaica Avenue Revitalization Task Force I spoke about earlier, it commenced on May 19th. Like I said earlier, we have 2 and 16 on what we call our day tours, and 2 and 16 on the 4 to 12 or the late tour. Again, spread out up and down Jamaica Avenue, Suffolk and Archer, Parsons and Archer. So, you know, they're out there. You know, I can give you stats about arrests. They've made 3 arrests. They issued a lot of summonses, but they also did quality of life work also. We've had about 8 graffiti cleanups, and we also team with our partners at the Traffic Enforcement District to keep traffic moving there. So that's something I'm very, very dedicated to keeping out there. I know historically people remember that Jamaica Avenue was an impact zone. So I know they remember all the officers that we had here in the impact zone. So we don't have that, but we put that out there as a task force because we understand the importance. And so the question also is going to be asked, how do we do that? We do it by flying in personnel from the precincts. Only precincts we don't fly people in from is basically in the Rockaways. We like to keep them in the Rockaways and keep them safe for the good borough president and all the residents of the Rockaways. But we bring them in, so it's not a heavy strain on any of the commands, and we deploy our resources. You're going to see a command post. Right now, it's on Jamaica Avenue, right across from the Social Security building. Also, right in front of the park where Run DMC took their picture for their Down with the Kings album. But you're going to see a steady presence in that corridor.
Can you speak to another big issue you're going to hear? This is my last question, but I'm more interested in, I know we've met, and I'm more interested in the board chairs hearing from you. And can you just speak to truck enforcement, big issue? So I'm very happy about some of the towing operations, but this has been a continuous issue north to south, but specifically on the outskirts of the airport, the Van Wyck. We could count 50 trucks on any day along the Van Wyck in a residential neighborhood. So just speak to what strategy and how is your strategy going to be different than what we've seen in the past?
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to find a way to be successful and continue to address it. Now, one of the things I'm going to get to as I'm getting acclimated here at the borough, as a borough commander, I'm going to bring all my partners in, whether it's DOT, our traffic agents, things of that nature. We're going to look for some ways outside the box to do it. But the men and women in the New York City Police Department are out there. Just last week alone, we wrote over 70 overnight commercial parking summonses. We're up to almost 2,000 year to date. So it's not an issue that we're ignoring, but we also know there's some challenges. And historically, for those who don't remember me, I used to be an executive officer here in Patrol Borough, Queens South. I also did a stint in Queens North, so I'm very familiar with the issues, concerns. Some of it is making sure we can get the equipment here to tow some of these vehicles, the locations where we're going to tow them. So we're going to continue, because I go up and down, like the borough president said, Springfield 147, whether you go up the Van Wyck Expressway, different areas. So we're going to make sure that we address those the best way we can with the resources that we have and continually address it. It's a precinct condition, especially in all the commands, but I know in the 105, the 103, the 113, historically in those corridors, that is a constant condition that I express to my precinct commanders to address.
Deputy Chief, I'll now ask staff to call on chairs for.
I got it, VP. We have no hands raised as of right now. Oh, now we do. CB10, Betty.
Thank you. Welcome, Chief, to Queens South.
My pleasure, Betty. Pleasure meeting you again.
What Ken represents the area of the 106 precinct. I'd be interested in knowing whether or not you're seeing any patterns in the larcenies from automobiles. Whether or not we are seeing a pattern of inflated amounts being stolen out of cars. I'm not talking about the catalytic converters. I'm talking about people who are leaving their cars unlocked and then stuff is getting taken out of their cars. Whether or not we're seeing a pattern of people trying to inflate an insurance claim.
Well, you know,
and are we working with insurance companies to address that?
Well, you know, interesting you say that. We have an auto larceny unit assigned to the borough. And so they review every complaint report dealing with vehicle theft and also the theft of a vehicle to see whether there is any fraud involved. I'll have to get back to you the number about the thefts from the vehicle, but I know that unit also has addressed probably about 30 complaints of overall vehicle theft that we knew that they investigated and found out that it was fraud. And then we will also go for to prosecute those people for filing a false complaint when it comes to the theft of a vehicle. But in regards to fraud from theft from a vehicle, I would have to get back to you. Thank
you. And the second part of my question on the truck issue, which we've discussed here in the past, that's an important issue. Are we targeting all of the areas with the heavy duty tow trucks that the former borough president purchased out of her discretionary money, which was supposed to be devoted for Queens? Have we been able to ascertain how much of the time they're being actually used in Queens? And if they're not here the majority of the time or almost all of the time, how can we help you ensure that that gets back to Queens, because they were purchased for Queens? And I would also urge the borough president, he's got any extra money that maybe we could get some more to, what I'm hearing from my precinct commander, and I've heard it from some of the other precinct commanders, is having the ability to tow the trucks on a regular basis is problematic. So if we get more heavy-duty tow trucks, maybe we can make a dent in it, but I thank you for the efforts. And my third question, and then I'll shut up, is are we going to see any focused attention on the larceny issue on the Liberty Avenue corridor in the 106 precinct?
Thank you for those questions. In regards to the heavy tow, I know that, again, from being in Patrol Borough, Queens South and Queens North, that is a very important issue. So one of the things I have, again, I'm going to go and say this is my 7th day. I have like a 50-step plan in which I'm going to address.
Good answer tonight.
But that's something we definitely going to look at. I know, I think it's going to be a mixture of the towing plus, making sure that my officers are writing the appropriate fines. I know past city council member Danny Miller put a law which changed the dollar amount for the fine. So we're going to use a mixture of both. But in regards to those tow trucks, it's one of my things on my agenda item to see, so that we make sure that we're using it here in the Patrol Borough, Queens South, and also for my good friend, Assistant Chief Galen Fries in the Queens North. And in regards to the issues in the 106 precinct along the Liberty Avenue, yes, we address those issues. Captain Bocci, the commanding officer of the 106 precinct, again, everybody, all my precinct commanders, when I first met with them, my first day here on the job, I explained to them that any resource of the borough is at their is available to them to address those issues along Liberty Avenue. So yes, we will see some improvement in that area. You will see some deployment. Again, like I don't want to be a broken record, but I am a strong believer That's high visibility foot patrol. As somebody who spent 9 months on foot patrol when they first graduated from the police academy way back in 1990, I believe that's going to be part of the key to turn this around here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just chime in here. So, you know, one of my reluctance would be in purchasing more vehicles. What would be the very reason you raised in keeping those tow trucks in Queens? And they're not cheap. They're over $1 million. I remember being public safety chair. I got Commissioner O'Neill to purchase one, hoping he would keep it in Queens, but he would not commit to that. So I would need to have real understanding with the new police commissioner. Not that million, but I would need to know that it's not going to be in Brooklyn and Staten Island.
You put a giant chain on it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I would want Queens written on it. Just maybe that's the way to keep it here. So, and I think Chief Williams hit it as well on the head. This is all about consistency. Denique Miller, now Speaker Adrian Adams, and I sponsored that legislation to increase fines. But the challenge is consistency. So I'm hoping that we're going to see Deputy Chief Williams and his folks consistently write these summonses, because I live right off of Springfield Boulevard. I can tell you it's just not being consistently done. We should hit them every freaking day until they get the message. They should not park their vehicles here because they can't do it in Nassau County. The third thing I want to add, and this is something we're talking to Councilmember Linda Lee on, who's done a lot of work on this issue as well. I think Councilmember Sylvina Brooks Powers and also Councilmember Natasha Williams have also come together to work on this issue. And one of the things we need to explore is, even if I wanted to tow all of these trucks, where are we towing them to? So under the Blasio, before he left, we had him looking at, reimagining what his tow pound lot plan looked like. And I think we're going to have to now speak to Mayor Adams, as I've mentioned to Councilmember Linda Lee, who's taken this issue, taking the bull by the horn issue, to look to now have him follow through on what that looks like. The simple answer is there space at JFK? I'm going to be speaking to the Port Authority about this. But even if I wanted to tow 40 of these trucks right now, I have no place to put them. So it limits the capacity of the department to even, if they wanted to tow all of these trucks, to put it somewhere. So we got to find some designated space in the borough to address this issue. And I just wanted to throw that out there. And then the fourth thing on my wish list on this would be the state changing their current law. And I learned this actually from the NYPD. Right now, private operators can't even tow these trucks. Based on state law. Did you know? Because NYPD's resources are stretched, imagine giving private tow operators an opportunity to also tow these trucks. I mean, they'll make a killing. So NYPD's resources aren't so stretched as well. So I don't know if there's some tow truck lobby or something that has kept this from happening, but I've also mentioned this to council members as well, as of exploring state law. And we need to work with our partners. I believe Senator Comrie has the bill, and also Assembly Member Alicia Hyman are working on this as well. And that can be a solution as well, because some of the private operators also have space. So you sort of release some of the pressure on the valve. So that's my strategy here. But once again, consistency has to be key here. Of course, keeping these trucks in Queens has to be key. It is a conversation I've had with the police commissioner as well. And when she comes to Queens again, I want y'all to raise it as well. When she comes to one of our town halls or does a town hall, to just make sure that this remains on the front burner. So thank you for that, Chair Brady.
Thank you, BP. We're going to go next to Chair Byron Block.
Thank you, Khalil. Thank you, Mr. BP. Chief, yeah, so on late Memorial Day, when we started hearing rumors about you coming back, so we were ecstatic then, and I told a few people you're going to be on the meeting tonight. So once again, welcome back to Queens South, and really appreciate you being here. Mr. BP, I think that issue regarding private tow trucks, that was kind of discussed at the 105 Precinct Council, and someone mentioned about, they had a little problem over there about a year or two ago with private tow trucks. If you understand what I'm talking about, they had some problems there with some of the officers calling on private tow companies, and there was some kickbacks going on about that. So that may be so. Yeah, so be careful. I mean, that was mentioned at the last precinct council meeting, and there was some pushback on that because what happened. So, but let me go back to the chief. Just thanks again, chief, for being here. I'm happy. I'm glad what I'm hearing. I'm happy. I'm just hearing you talking about the trucks and the quality of life issues. I'm just going to sit back and watch you operate because I have total confidence in you. I just, I'm so happy you're here. And I say that on behalf of Community Board 13 and all the residents out here in Southeast Queens. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Block.
And we were praying for that, and the prayers were answered. So.
Thank you.
Prayers were answered. It was slow, but it finally were answered.
Won't he do it?
Thank you, Byron. Next, we're going to go to CB11 Vice Chair Christine. Christine, you're still muted.
Am I okay now? Good. I just wanted to say it's a pleasure to meet you, Chief Williams. Oh, there you are. Hi. And it sounds to me from what people have asked and your answers that, you're going to do a good job for us. And that really makes me very, very happy because a lot of our communities are being killed by quality of life issues. And that's a concern. Now, very quickly, we've had an issue here with the trucks for years, okay, on the Long Island Expressway Service Road north, down Peck Avenue. There's also those leisure buses, black and white buses are being parked there. And one was being washed the other day, washed. There was a house for sale and he pulled right up to the house for sale, pulled out the hose, and him and another guy washed that whole bus. Of course, we called, but they didn't come in time and then they were gone, But this is what it's doing. They're changing their engine, what's the word? I'm not mechanical, working on their engines and so forth, right in the street. And I mean, I can't work on my engine in my street, right? So, I mean, we have to have more vigilance, I think. And I think that's very, very important. And they all seem to pull in around, 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night. And they park their buses, trucks, get into the cars that they've left there and go off, so I don't even know where they come from. But we need help with that big time over here in the 111 precincts. Thank you very much. And I do hope we can get to meet in person one day.
My pleasure also. I look forward to meeting with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christine. Next, we'll go to Reverend Thorpes.
Good evening. Welcome home, Chief.
Very much.
Welcome back home. It was a pleasure meeting you the other day at the Borough, and a lot of what you've already spoken about, we've already had an opportunity to speak about it briefly. The only other thing that came to mind is where do we stand with booting some of these trucks? Because like the BP has said, the count for trucks from Rockaway Boulevard to Jamaica Avenue, because I cover the 103 and the 113, upwards of 40 trucks around just about every park we have, including Ajax Park, because it's right here at the Van Wyck, and the other park that's down by Liberty Avenue.
I laugh because a lot of people, when you say Ajax Park, they say Charles Drew now. But, like I said, we did about 37 boots of vehicles. I don't have to break down whether they're trucks or not, but I know there's a little difference between a regular wheel boot for a car and a truck, so I could look into that. Matter of fact, I'm planning on meeting with my counterpart in the Transportation Bureau to see about what other equipment we can have. So as soon as I get briefed on that, I will have a conversation and get back to you with regards to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you saying out Jamaica they changed the name, the Ajax, to what now?
Called Charles Drew.
Oh, okay. Charles Drew is notable though. Okay.
No, it's good. I'm not, for those
All right.
for those who
Reach
don't
out
know me, born and raised in Southside Queens. So.
Absolutely.
Shima's still Shima. Jackson is still Jackson to me. That's it.
All righty. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? All right, seeing none, thank you. And I really do truly appreciate just seriously tonight being able to have a debate on an issue. No matter where we're at, we should be comfortable in giving our opinions, and that's the way democracy works, right? Win, lose, or draw, no matter what. So I'm really appreciative of us being able to have an open dialogue on smoke-free housing and a myriad of other issues. And I just want everybody to know this is what this platform is all about. It only makes the borough stronger. And I also just want to thank, once again, Deputy Chief Kevin Williams. Welcome back home. I guess I'll be stopping by your church too. You said, won't he do it? I know. So you were speaking my language. But truly great to have you back. We look forward to working with you here. Please know that this platform is available anytime you want to get a message out on any specific issues. And I think you hit on a few points that are important. These larcenies, grand theft auto, lock your car doors, Queens. We all have these remote keys we use now. Please make sure you're taking them with you because we're seeing a lot of preventable crimes, things that can be preventable if we all use as much common sense and try to remember as much. I know we all got a lot on our plate. We'll remember to take our keys with us and to lock our doors and to close our windows as well. So with that being said, thank you so much. We look forward to the work ahead with each and every one of you. I want to thank my staff, Khalil, thank you so much, to Maricela, to Tiffany, of course, to the Deputy Borough President. Thank you, Ebony Young. Thank you so much. Our next Borough Board meeting will be, and Alan, of course, Alan, thank you. Our next Borough Board will be a joint meeting with the Borough Cabinet on Monday, July 11th. So if you're planning a vacation, cancel it. All right, that was a joke. But Monday, July 11th, look forward to seeing you. Have a safe 4th of July if we don't see you before then, but I'm sure we will. Stay safe, everyone, and have a great night. And thanks again